Good morning and welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our MLB DFS pitcher picks for Wednesday. Nope, it's Tuesday, May 9th, 2017. One of these days I'm going to figure out what day of the week it is, what day of the month it is, what month it is, but I've been pretty good with the year so far. So my ability to know what day it is, fortunately, has no bearing, no impact whatsoever on fantasy sports because they only release the slates one day at a time, thankfully. I really like this slate tonight. Was really pleased with how things turned out yesterday. A lot of ownership of the Yankees, a lot of ownership of the Dodgers, no ownership of Coors, and no ownership of Coors even prior to the rain out. So felt pretty confident about that. Really wish Gio Gonzalez would have had a little bit of a better game, or maybe a lot of a better game, and my night would have been from very good to I really don't know. I don't want to play hypotheticals, but also Cody Bellinger, if he could have just got a little more done, I definitely would have been in for a big night. But as it was, tripling everything up, not going to complain, especially after how bad Talladega ended with that wreck that I promise I will only bring up for a couple more weeks. Pitching did well. Like I said, Gio got hit a lot more than we wanted to, but Dodger pitching, Padre pitching came through in a big way. Dodger pitching, just like, I was so confused when I saw the ownership levels of Alex Wood in comparison to, I know like DeGrom was at near 50% in the tournaments I was in on DK, Cahill near 50%, but to me, the Dodger matchup was the best of all because you had a team flying all the way across the country. I don't understand why that was less of a popular play than it was, but I digress. Tonight, I am looking at strikeout bats. I do want to try to get Coors in my lineup, but again, when you're dealing with 14 games, it's definitely a situation that you could probably pivot from Coors a lot of times. How many times, if there's 14 games, 28 teams playing, 6 runs from one of the teams at Coors, or even 11 runs from the game in total, might not be enough to do damage when you have, like yesterday, where you had the Yankees put up, I think they got to double digits. I know the Dodgers got to double digits. So, like, if one team is capable of putting up the score of an entire series or an entire game of two teams, to me, it's just, I end up fading Coors more often than not. And thus far, I feel like it's been reasonably successful. Maybe I've gotten lucky with some hitters. I know that I've managed to get guys like Jed Lowry last night at a pretty high percent ownership on my end. He was not very high percent owned. His teammate Yonder Alonso several nights ago. Cody Bellinger at lower ownership for a couple of games there. I get that, but I mean, it's all part of the game. Let's get things started today with Drew Pomeranz of the Boston Red Sox taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. And I'll tell you what, things are really good for Pomerantz in this matchup because the Brewers are striking out like 27% of the time, I think, against left-handed bats or left-handed pitching. The downside is that they're mashing left-handed pitching on top of that, but at the same time, there's going to be games where they mash lefties. There's going to be games where the lefties are able to get the best of them. And I will take a high strikeout pitcher against a high strikeout situation in tournaments a lot. 8,100 on DraftKings, 8,300 on FanDuel. I do not feel like that is a ton to spend. If you decide to go the route of not playing Max Scherzer and you take another guy in between that maybe 9,200 to 7,500 range, you can still build a really strong baseball team. So I don't see any reason not to do it. I know prevailing logic is going to be, the Brewers they're good against left-handed pitching, but yes, 3 out of the 4 stats I personally look at, I'm isolating one stat for tournaments, And if I lose, I lose. But if I win, I hope no one else played him just like they did in Alex Wood last night. Next up, Robbie Ray. Speaking of a horrible situation, you've got Robbie Ray at Chase Field against the Detroit Tigers. Tigers actually haven't done so well. If you look at their stats, and what I basically look at right now is WOBA, strikeout percent, ISO, hard hit percent. Those are the things that you can argue with me all day about there being better stats to look at in terms of how a team's doing against a certain type of hitting, and you might be right, but quite frankly and honestly, this is working for me and has been working for me for the entire baseball season, so I'm going to stick with it. But, yeah, another high strikeout pitcher here. Horrible conditions for hitting, but horrible conditions for pitching, but that's not to say that in these, good hitting parks, we won't see a ton of performances where pitchers just come in and dominate this year. I do prefer the Diamondback side of things to the Tigers side of things. Robbie Ray, 86 on FanDuel, 92 on DraftKings. I think he's got a lot of upside. Floor's pretty scary, not going to lie, but we're looking at upside here, so Robbie Ray on our list. Let's finish things off with the most obvious play of the night. That's Max Scherzer, 11-6 FanDuel, 11-8 DraftKings. High strikeout pitcher facing a team that hasn't really been a high strikeout team against right-handed pitching yet this year. But unless they all of a sudden got a lot more disciplined, these things are going to come. You're not seeing the 0 for 4 with 4 Ks from Chris Davis as much this year, but I assure you that will be coming. Scherzer, not priced as high as a lot of the other aces. 11-8 I find to be unless I transposed a number somewhere, 11-8 is a very tolerable number to me when you're considering that Kershaw we know is in like the 1400s. Probably a pretty good likelihood that he gives up a home run. I feel like that's the sacrifice you make with Scherzer is, yeah, he'll get you 10 or 11 strikeouts potentially, but he's going to give up a home run or two, get you the win if his offense is clicking, and they were not last night. But he's a guy, I think, cash games, he's the most sensible play. Tournaments, if you want to divert your action from Coors to maybe another team that you think might be in a good position and is underpriced, Scherzer's the guy I would build around. So that'll wrap it up. Once again, our top 3 tournament pitchers tonight: Drew Pomeranz, Robbie Ray, Max Scherzer. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today. Head over to researchfantasy.com, sign up for our MLB mailing list, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Research and Win, and join us again tomorrow.